Here's Mr. Bumble Bee, he bumbles around, flies amongst the flowers with his buzz-buzz sound. He wears a fuzzy coat and stripy pants, and when he makes some honey, he does a little dance. Zoo, 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 zuzz, zuzz, zuzz. Can you zoo like you do? Can you buzz, buzz, buzz? Zoo, 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 zub, zub, zub. Can you zoo like you do? Can you buzz, buzz, buzz? Bumblebee, he bumbles along, collecting pollen with his buzz-buzz song. He lives with his family in a beehive, and when they make some honey, they do a little jive. Zoo, 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 zub, zub, zub. Can you zoo like you do? Can you buzz, buzz, buzz? Zoo, 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 zub, zub, zub. Can you zoo like you do? Can you buzz, buzz, buzz? Buzz, 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 buzz. Mr. Bumblebee, he bumbles around, flies amongst the flowers with his buzz-buzz sound. He wears a fuzzy coat and stripy pants, and when he makes some honey, he does a little dance. Zoo, 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 zub, zub, zub. Can you zoo like you do? Can you buzz, buzz, buzz? Zoo, 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 zub, zub, zub. Can you zoo like you do? Can you buzz, buzz, buzz? What a happy pixie bouncing her ball. What colour is this little pixie's ball?
Red! Red!
That's right. Here's another one. What colour is this little pixie's ball?
Pink!
That's right. Good. Here comes another. What colour is this little pixie's ball?
Green!
Here comes Fairy Twinkle. What colour is her ball?
Red!
What a lot of fun these pixies are having bouncing their balls. I'm Mr. Froggy on a lily pad. I wear a tuxedo and a big top hat. All other ladies love it when I sing. Croak, croak, croak. I'm Lady Butterfly, flapping my wings, floating through the flowers, and as I go I sing. It's such a sunny day, I'm happy as I fly. Flap, flap, flap. I'm a little bunny, cute as can be. I'm small and I'm shy and my tail is fluffy. I live in a burrow and I hop around. Jump, jump, jump. I'm little fishy, splashing in the pond. I wriggle and I wriggle as I swim along. I've got shiny fins and a silvery tail. Wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. I'm a pretty flower, I stretch up to the sun. I say good morning everyone. I make the children smile and I smell really sweet. Smile, smile, smile. I'm a little birdie sitting in a tree, singing my heart out a summer melody. And all of the forest sings along with me. Tweet, tweet, tweet. I'm a little snail crawling underground. I'm small and I'm friendly, but I don't make any sound. I carry my shell house on my back. I crawl, I crawl, I crawl. Martha B. Rabbit, the Fairies' Cook.
Once there was a small brown rabbit, whose name was Martha B. Rabbit. Her house was at the foot of an old apple tree in the middle of a wild and tangled forest. There were bright flowers at the front of the house, and at the back was a vegetable garden where she grew all the things that rabbits like to eat. Martha loved to cook. Her buns and cakes were the best in the forest. Every tiny mouse who passed on their way to school lingered hopefully by her door, knowing that if she came out, there would be rose-hip toffee in her apron pocket. Weary elves were given buns and acorn coffee in her cosy kitchen. All through the summer, Martha grew, gathered and preserved the food that would keep her during the long, cold winter. She dried and bottled the jewel-bright summer fruits, made jams and gathered nuts to grind into flour. When the autumn leaves fell, she stacked firewood under the eaves and brought in baskets of rosy apples. Now all through the snowy winter she could stay warm and snug inside. One wintry day, when the frost made a crackling white carpet on the forest floor, 3 rats moved into the forest. They were robber rats who lived by stealing what belonged to other people. They had almost been caught in town, so now they had fled to the forest, looking for a deeper, darker hole in which to hide. These rats were bold and bad, rough and rude, and afraid of nothing except cats. The rats soon ran out of food. They were not used to living away from the town and had no stores to keep them through the winter. One of them had a wicked idea. Here, let's creep over to the brown rabbit's house and steal all her food while she's asleep. The others agreed that was a great plan. Not one of them thought of what Martha would do through the long, dark winter months. In the middle of the night, the rats pulled on their stolen boots, packed up their housebreaking tools, and set off along the forest path. In the pale winter moonlight, they quietly forced open Martha's door and crept inside. Then they filled their sack with all the food in her larder, everything but the mustard, which rats don't like. When Martha came down next morning, she was horrified, seeing empty cupboards, rat footprints, and nothing but a jar of mustard left on the shelf. At first she just cried, but Martha knew that crying wouldn't feed her through the winter, and she had to take care of herself. So she dried her eyes, packed her recipe book in her basket, and set off to try and find work doing what she did best, cooking. All that long cold day, the small brown rabbit trudged through the forest. She knocked at the door of each tree house asking if anyone needed a cook, but no one did. Martha went further, frightened now by every rustle in the bushes. Suddenly, a big red fox sprang out and very nearly caught her. She dived into a hole, but the fox kept trying to get in after her. His yellow eyes gleamed, and she felt his hot breath on her face when a tiny mouse called to her.
"Quick, follow me. I'll show you a way out where Foxy won't see you."
When Martha came out of the hole, the wintry sun had begun to set. She had sadly turned to go back to her cold, empty house when 2 small birds fluttered down.
"Martha, we know who is looking for a cook. The gnome who runs the guest house."
The brown rabbit thanked them and set off, feeling much more cheerful. On summer nights, when the big silver moon is shining, the fairies and elves play among the flowers and leaves all night and sleep during the day. But in winter it is too cold for them outside, so they move into the guest houses run by gnomes, where they can dance and play by firelight instead. It was just such a guest house which needed a cook. When Martha arrived, she found a tearful kitten sweeping the snow from the doorstep. Tabitha cat had burned the cakes again. Mr. Gnome had crossly ordered her to leave. But where could she go in the middle of winter? "Don't cry," said Martha. "I'm Martha Bee Rabbit, the cook. You can come and live with me in my apple tree house. The rubber rats won't come back if you're there." Mr. Gnome came hurrying downstairs. He had heard all about Martha Bee Rabbit, the best cook in the forest, and wanted to ask her to cook for his fairy guests. In return, he agreed to feed the rabbit and kitten through the winter months.
"But we must hurry," said Mr. Gnome. "Fairies have a party every week, and tonight is party night."
While Tabitha tidied the house and decorated it with pine branches and tinsel, Martha and Mr. Gnome prepared the food. Party food for fairies must be very special, so Martha made trifles, jellies, fruitcakes, chocolate eclairs and gingerbread, and Mr. Gnome made buns, sausage rolls and lots of party pies. Fairies are sleepy during the day and only really wake up when the stars come out. At last they came downstairs with shining wings and sparkling dresses, all the colours of the summer flowers. An orchestra of pixies played sweet music, and the fairies danced and sang. Later, the party supper was laid out on toadstool tables. Now came the test of Martha's cooking. Would these lovely creatures like her food, she wondered anxiously. She need not have worried. All the guests agreed that hers was the best food they'd ever tasted. They begged Mr. Gnome to make sure she cooked their food every week. When the stars began to fade in the sky, the fairies and elves grew tired and began to go upstairs to their beds. Mr. Gnome, Martha and Tabitha tidied up, washed the dishes and ate their own supper. Then, with enough food to last them till the next fairy party, the small brown rabbit and the tired kitten set off for home in the cold light of the early dawn. And so it all ended happily. Martha and Tabitha cat lived together in their house under the apple tree, each helping the other. Every week they worked for Mr. Gnome and then came home with plenty of food, and no rats ever came near the cosy little house now that a cat, though only a very small one, lived there. Here comes Fairy Twinkle. What's she up to today? Here comes her friend Mr. Bird. Fairy Twinkle has a present for him.
Birds don't read newspapers.
Now what's she doing? She's making the bird a cup of tea.
Birds don't drink tea. Give the birds some bread. Break up the bit so the bird can eat it. Don't you got a little mouth? Now that's how you feed the birds.
Can you see me? I see you. Can you find me? Doop-de-doo. See what magic one can do. Oopsie daisy, peekaboo. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. I wave my wand and disappear. No one even knows I'm here. Can you see me? I see you. Ah, you found me. Peekaboo. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Can you see me? I see you. Can you find me? Oopie-doo. See what magic one can do. Whoopsie daisy, peekaboo. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. I wave my wand and disappear. No one even knows I'm here. Can you see me? I see you. Ah, you found me. Peekaboo. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la.
The Seventh Unicorn. Oak Avenue was a narrow tree-lined street in the oldest part of a large city. In more recent times, the ground floors of most of the houses had been turned into quaint-looking shops. Robert and Rachel often came to stay with their Aunt Zelda, who lived above her gift shop. Many of the little shops in Oak Avenue had names that were easy to remember. Aunt Zelda's gift shop was called the Magic Mirror, because the first thing you saw right at the entrance was a big mirror in a strangely carved frame. The mirror was so old that the glass was misty and silver-speckled. Rachel felt sure it was a magic mirror. If you gaze into it for a long time, you begin to see a beautiful world in there, behind the silver speckles. Robert just laughed. And Aunt Zelda, closing the barred shop door, replied, "You might see it more clearly if you give the mirror a really good polish." So early the next morning, when the avenue was quiet and no one was about, the children polished the mirror. Robert was impatient to try out a new giant slide which had been set up in the park at the end of Oak Avenue. So when they had finished cleaning the mirror, he ran off. Rachel was about to follow him when a sudden movement made her glance back at the mirror. Imagine her amazement when she saw a little pearl-white horse leap from the mirror in a swirl of stardust and trot swiftly away between the trees. A unicorn! I'm sure it was a real live unicorn! Rachel ran to catch up with Robert. Oh, come on, Rachel. First a magic mirror, now a unicorn. With that, he dashed into a corner store to buy a bag of his favourite barley sugar twists. Rachel stood crossly looking at the gemstones in Jemima's jewel shop window. I really did see a unicorn. But when Robert reappeared and gave her some barley sugar, she stopped feeling annoyed with him, and the two raced off to the park together. The giant slide was such fun that Rachel almost forgot about what she had seen until the little white unicorn trotted into view. His horn and hooves were golden, and stardust glittered in his mane and tail. He came right up to the children, as if he wanted to play. What did I tell you? Isn't he beautiful? Yes! And he absolutely loves barley sugar. The honking of a distant car horn startled the unicorn, and he suddenly wheeled in a cloud of stardust and galloped away, his golden hooves silent on the fallen leaves. Let's go back and tell Aunt Zelda that her mirror really is magic. So the children hurried back along Oak Avenue, but this time on the other side. As they were passing a high-walled yard next to the wizard's castle and antique shop, Robert stopped suddenly. What is it? Without replying, Robert scrambled up the nearest oak tree and peered over the wall. Rachel, he called down softly. There are 6 more unicorns in there, and they're all tied up, and they look very unhappy. Come down quickly! Someone's coming! Down slid Robert, just in time. A man had unlocked the shop door and was carrying out a strange assortment of antiques to arrange on the pavement. He wore a wizard's pointed hat with the name of the shop on it and a big cloak sewn with stars, so that he looked just like a real wizard. When he went back into the shop, the children sped past up the avenue toward Aunt Zelda's gift shop. The children were almost at Aunt Zelda's shop when the 7th unicorn cantered past. Right before their eyes, he leapt back into the mirror. Come on! Follow him! Despite his sister's protest, Robert pulled her with him through the mirror, and they went through the glass as if it were water. On the other side of the mirror, Rachel's nervousness faded as she saw they had entered a beautiful land, strangely shadowed at the edges, but filled with flowers and grasses. Welcome to Arcadia. Rachel and Robert turned and saw a group of beautiful children. "Or welcome to what is left of Arcadia," said their leader. "For see how on every side a shadow creeps to destroy a lovely world." Rachel and Robert looked to where the girl had pointed. They realized that what they had thought was a shadow was really a creeping fog which withered flowers and trees where it touched them. "An evil wizard discovered the spell to open the door to our world," continued the young Arcadian leader. "Each day he entered through the magic mirror, bound a unicorn with a magic halter, and led it away. When he steals our last unicorn, Arcadia will be destroyed. Only the power of 7 unicorns keeps our world whole and well. We sent our 7th unicorn through the mirror to seek out the other 6, but he could not find them. Rachel and Robert looked at each other. They knew where the missing unicorns were. The wizard must have entered the magic mirror while Aunt Zelda was at the back of the shop. The children quickly jumped through the magic mirror into the shop. Excitedly, they told their amazed aunt all that had happened. We must work out a plan to rescue the other unicorns. We'll have to start very early in the morning, before the wizard is out of bed, and we'll need a big bag of barley sugar. The next morning at sunrise, while Aunt Zelda guarded the magic mirror doorway, Rachel and Robert ran down Oak Avenue. Rachel kept a lookout for the wizard, while Robert climbed over the wall to where the unicorns huddled miserably together. He quickly unbolted the big gate and pulled off the magic halters one by one. The 6 unicorns silently trotted out into the street, where Rachel gave them each some barley sugar. Soon the 2 children were running full speed up the avenue, with the hungry unicorns following close behind. Aunt Zelda was anxiously waiting outside her gift shop, ready to guide the unicorns, and threw handfuls of barley sugar among the jewelled flowers. The 6 unicorns followed her back into their own world and began to crunch the barley sugar. With cries of joy, the Arcadians came running to hug and pet their unicorns, all 7 together again at last. Then, golden light filled the land, and the dark shadows were driven away. Then Aunt Zelda drew the children back to their own world, only to come face to face with the furious wizard.
Let me pass! I need the power of the unicorns to be the greatest wizard in the world!
Aunt Zelda quickly snatched up a heavy candlestick and smashed the mirror into 1,000 pieces. The door is closed now. Arcadia is safe from you forever. The wizard scowled horribly and stamped back to his antique shop and slammed his door. Aunt Zelda and the children were overjoyed that they had saved Arcadia from the wizard. They knew they would never forget that beautiful world as long as they lived. The ornate mirror frame was soon filled with new glass, and although it was no longer a doorway into another world, Rachel and Robert often gazed into it. Sometimes they could just make out a shimmering pearly form. They were sure it was a unicorn looking out at them. Perhaps he was thinking about barley sugar. Have you ever seen a Woodley Doo? No, I've never seen a Woodley Doo. Do you mean to say that you have not seen a Woodley Doo?
Of course not!
It's got eyes like a jellyfish, feet like a slug, nose like a kitten and toes like a bug, wings like a rabbit and horns like a fish. It's the wonderful Woodley Doo.
That's silly!
No, Freddy. Freddy is its name, lives under the sink and hides in the drain. Flubberts and flippers and wiggles its toes. It's the wonderful Woodley Doo.
You're making it up!
It sings like an inchworm, a voice like a toad, smiles like a gangly sloth with 3 toes, smells like a peanut that's left in the sun. It's the wonderful Woodley Doo.
That's nonsense.
Nonsense? You can be so cruel. Just 'cause you ain't seen it means nothing at all. You won't see it lest once to be seen. It's the wonderful, magical, ooh-la-la, magical, beautiful Woodley Doo. One pixie in the square. What colour is this square?
Blue.
One pixie in a square. What colour is this square?
Yellow.
One pixie in a square. Oh, but what colour is this square?
Red.
One pixie in a square. What colour is this square?
Green.
How many in this square now?
2.
What colour is their square?
Red.
How many pixies in this square now?
2.
What colour is their square?
Yellow.
Gosh! How many pixies does that make in this square?
2.
What colour is their square?
Blue.
Oh, more pixies. How many in this square?
2.
And what colour is their square?
Green.
Bye-bye, red pixies. Bye-bye, yellow pixies. Bye-bye, green pixies. And bye-bye, blue pixies. Phew, no more pixies. Kite trouble. One day, Teddy came out of his house to sweep his front door steps, which were covered with pink petals. But it was a breezy spring day, and as soon as he had finished, the wind blew down a lot more petals. Bother, said Teddy. I think I'll do something else instead. It would be a good day to fly a kite. So he went inside and made a big, fine kite. When he had finished, he thought he would show all his friends and ask if anyone wanted to come up the hill to help him fly it. Hey, Peter, called Teddy up to the house in the chestnut tree. Peter put his head out of the window. Do you want to help me fly my kite up the hill? Peter thought this was a good idea. But I want to make one of my own, he said. I'll meet you up the hill when I've made it. Peter got out his scissors and paper and sticks and string and set to work to make his kite. Teddy went on to Emma Jane's and showed her his kite. Will you help me make one, Teddy? She asked. Then we can fly them together. So Teddy helped Emma Jane make a kite, When it was finished, she wanted to paint it to look like a bird. There, does that look like a bird, Teddy? Sort of. I wonder what real birds will think of it. Teddy and Emma Jane went to show the rabbit family their kites. All the little rabbits squeaked with excitement and wanted to make one each. So Teddy and Emma Jane helped them. They made 3 rabbit kites. Mrs. Rabbit said, "Off you go then. Later on I might walk up the hill with Baby to see your kites flying." And she gave them watercress sandwiches for a picnic. Next, Teddy and Emma Jane visited Toadstool Village. All the little mice came running out to see their kites and wanted to make kites for themselves. Teddy and Emma Jane had to help the mice make tiny kites. They made 12 little mice kites altogether. "It's a good thing I started early, or the day would be finished before we got to fly the kites," said Teddy. Just then Peter came with a kite so enormous the mice and rabbits were frightened. They hid in the bushes and had to be coaxed out. "It's the biggest kite in the world. Maybe it will take me flying too," said Peter. Emma Jane looked so worried that Teddy whispered to her, "I really don't think it will fly." On the way to the hill, they passed Hector Frog's house. "I've got a kite," said Hector. "It's a box kite. I found it last year in the bush." He fetched his kite and joined the others. As they went through the forest, the pixies peeped out at them, and all those who had kites came running shyly up to show them. "Can we come too?" they asked in their tiny little voices. "Of course you can. Bring some sandwiches. We're having a picnic on the hill after the kite flying." So on they all went, followed by a trail of pixies carrying their own little kites. As they passed Fairy Rosebud's house, she came out to wave at them. "We're going to fly kites up the hill," they called. "Do you want to come with us?" Fairy Rosebud smiled as she saw all the forest friends and all the kites, big and small, and all shapes, sizes and colours. "I have some things to do first, but I might fly along later," she said. Fairy Rosebud went into her house and got out her magic book. "I wonder if there's a spell for untangling kite string. I just know there's going to be trouble with all those mice and pixies, let alone Peter's enormous kite." Meanwhile, the forest friends arrived at the top of the hill and got their kites and strings ready. There was a fine breeze blowing the clouds about, and a flock of birds flew up from the forest to see what was happening. Pretty soon, everyone was running around trying to fly their kites. 7 mice got their strings tangled. 1 young rabbit tripped and hurt his knee, and a pixie fell into a hole with his kite on top of him. Peter managed to get his kite up into the air, but he couldn't get it to do what he wanted it to do. It soared up into the sky and frightened all the forest birds. Then it dived down at the kite flyers.
No! Get out of the way!
"Look out!" cried Teddy. "Down, everybody!"
Oh, you turned my toe.
They all fell flat in the grass, and the kite zoomed over them. "Help! It's taking me too!" cried Peter. Everyone tried to hold on to Peter, to keep him down, but the enormous kite swept on, carrying most of them into the prickle bushes. The enormous kite ended up in the bush, all tattered and broken. "Oh well, at least it did fly," said Peter. "I don't think I'll make one that big again. It's a bit dangerous." "You can fly mine if you like," said Emma Jane, "while I take the prickles out of the pixies." So Peter flew Emma Jane's kite, which looked like a bird flying in the sky. But the forest birds that were very cross with the fright they'd had when the enormous kite flew over them came out of the trees and attacked the bird kite. Oh no! The birds are pecking Emma Jane's kite to pieces! And down came Emma Jane's kite in a shower of paper and sticks. The wind lifted Teddy's kite beautifully. But as it went up, the string got all tangled with the rabbit and pixie kites, and up they all went, pixies, mice, rabbits and all. There were shrieks and squeals, and everyone tried to pull the Teddy kite down again. Mrs. Rabbit arrived with the baby. "Oh my goodness, my little rabbits are up in the air! Hang on tight, bunnies, till we pull you down again." Just then, Fairy Rosebud arrived. And not a moment too soon. "I can see we need a bit of magic." She waved her wand, and down came Teddy's kite, landing very gently on the grass. She waved it again, and everyone stopped crying. Then she said the magic spell, and all the kite strings untangled, and the broken kites were mended again. "Now everyone, stand in a circle," she ordered. "Hold up your kites and we will start again." This time, all the kites flew up into the air without any trouble at all. The forest friends were happy again. They flew their kites till they were tired and hungry, then sat in the grass to eat their sandwiches. "It's a very good thing that you decided to come along," said Teddy to Fairy Rosebud. "Well, I had a feeling that you would have trouble flying all those kites."
Magic powder full of lovely things, dust from a butterfly's wings, starlight from an evening star, winter frost and morning dew, velvet from flower buds, colors of the rainbow and the scent of spring. That is how Sandman makes dust for children's dreams. Sandman drifts on through all the night, seeing to children are sleeping tight, making sure they're safe and warm all through the night. Then he fades back to dreamland to make more dreams for the children. Close your eyes, he'll come to you, take you to dreamland too. Dust from a butterfly's wings, starlight from an evening star, winter frost and morning dew, velvet from flower